Welcome, my beautiful crew, to Mystic Conversations with Awakening Stoners. However, today we are not going to be getting stoned, which is totally fine. Because usually, people think that I'm like this big stoner. I take like one puff and then I'm like, okay, I'm really baked.
Well, and that's the only reason that we're not doing it, because I think if I took one puff, I would probably not do a very good job.
Right. Well, I think if I take more than one, I'm like ridiculous. And I can't remember like what I said 5 minutes before. So, or like 2 seconds before, really is how that goes. Okay, so now, Jane, you are an occupational therapist.
Yep.
And so you deal with a lot of kids, I'm assuming, with ADD, ADHD, autism, all that good stuff. Yeah. Now, there's a bunch of controversy over how that comes to be. But one of the reasons that they say is through what we put into our bodies.
Yeah.
So you also have another business where it's called Beauty Counter, and you are a rep for that. And it's clean makeup. So because we put on our skin. Yep. That's like, because the integumentary system is like one of the biggest systems in our bodies. Yeah. So how do you feel about, I guess, the clean makeup, and why did you get into this? Oh, hello. That's the kids. They're playing. You're fine. Why did you get into this, and what makes you, what makes this a healing property?
So I got into this because I actually found out about Beauty Counter when my older son was just a baby. So I was sort of appalled that I learned he had been born pre-polluted, because I just didn't know. I didn't know that what I was putting on my skin was potentially impacting him. I had no idea. I also had no idea that there were potential ingredients inside what I was putting on my skin that had links to harmful things like cancers and allergens and irritants and hormone disruption and on and on and on. So that really started me on a journey of, sort of cleaning up, not just my skincare and my makeup, but also my cleaning products. And, it goes, on and on, but that's sort of what started it. And then I started trying the products, and of course I loved them, fell in love with them right away. And I just really started with a very basic, like 2-step thing. And I remember talking about it like, wow, it looks like I have a really high quality makeup on my face. And it was just, I just washed and like moisturized. That's all I did. So anyway, that has led me to become a consultant and to start advocating for the brand and just educating. And it really lights me up in many different ways. And so it's been healing, I think, to know the information, to realize, wow, there's a lot that we aren't told. And we really do have to do our own digging, and to be mindful of what we're putting. If we think about it, like, we're careful about what we eat, we're careful about exercise, taking care of our bodies, but, really thinking about, okay, what am I putting on my skin? Largest organ in our bodies, 60% of what we put on our skin is absorbed into the bloodstream. So just really getting aware, I think, of that has been huge. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So how does that play into you being like as a mother?
Yeah. Well, and I think as an OT too,
for sure.
What I do in my career is I help people to be as independent as possible in their daily lives. Bathing, dressing, grooming, hygiene. What do we need to do those things? We need products. We need soap. We need shampoo. We need toothpaste. And it's the same for my kiddos. I want what they put on their skin, like 2 little boys. And so they're not doing a ton of stuff, but they brush their teeth. We wash their hair. We wash their bodies. Yeah. Soaps and sunscreen, for goodness sake.
Sunscreen is a big one.
It is a big one.
Because you're like baking that into, that was always like this huge thing for me. And that because when I first started talking to you about all of these products, I was like, the sunscreen was like a big deal for me. And half the time I don't even put sunscreen on them. And that's not necessarily the best thing either. Yeah. But it was because of that. I'm like, I'm just baking that into their system, and that freaked me out for a really long time. So, and then there's this other piece too, which because I'm a medium, right? And we are all mediums. So and I think I've told my viewers that like 1,000 times, everybody's a medium. And there's a lot of things that, you know, we can go down this whole conspiracy road because I love conspiracy. However, I'm not going to, I promise, I will just behave on that one. But there's a lot of products like in, that are hidden, that are very harmful. Like even in the natural products, there's things that are in the fragrance, right? And because it's like a secret sauce kind of thing, they don't have to say what is in the fragrance. Yeah,
that's exactly right. Fragrance is one of those things to be most leery of because, like you said, you're absolutely right. When you see that word fragrance on the back of a label, or parfum, it might be called, that word is protected by federal law as a trade secret, which means it can literally be composed of thousands of harmful chemicals, things with links to cancer and endocrine disruption, birth defects, and they don't have to tell you what's in there.
And to me, and this is where I was going with that. See, I even do it when I'm not stoned. To me, it's like the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is your third eye. And so for me, it's like, that's a huge, that I think that was probably the biggest thing for me anyways. And I know that there's 1,000 other things and my children, but it was, for me, it was more like we're being dumbed down. It's like, you know,
I'm so proud of myself. I mean, you are the first person that I approached about Beauty Counter and the business opportunity side of things, because I had this feeling about, you know, what you feel like is important in what you're putting in your body and everything. And I remember as soon as I mentioned it to you, you were like, yes, they're trying to dumb us down. They're trying to dumb down our third eye by the things that they're putting in the products. And I was like, yes, this girl has got it.
Absolutely. And I mean, it's in everything. It's like in our water. And, you know, I mean, even simple things, because the integumentary system, right? Like your skin, nails, and hair. Because I'm a water baby, like I'm always in the bath and everything has to be all natural. And I got like this system, the reverse osmosis system, so that we're not drinking it. But then when I'm sitting in the bath, I'm sitting in fluoride. And I do it constantly. So I'm like, and everybody's like, oh, because you're not putting it into your body, you're just putting it outside. I'm like, it's going through our skin.
It is.
Like that. Yeah. So that freaks me out a little bit. And, you know, I wish that there was something. I mean, I know that there's like a reverse osmosis system for the entire house, but that can get expensive. So I'm not quite there yet.
You just blew my mind. Saying all of that. But yes, I support you in that process.
I know. See, I can go on to crazy tangents with all this stuff.
I love it. I love it. More. Let's do more.
Yes.
More tangents.
So what is in these products, or technically what is not in these products that makes it so much different from going to the store and buying, you know, something even that says that it's all natural or organic?
Yeah.
What's the difference?
Well, there's kind of a long answer to that. And, you know, when Beauty Counter first came about, there were terms out there like green and eco to mean that the products were really natural and that they were better for you because they were natural and organic. And that's all well and good, but some of those products, in fact, many of them didn't work very well. And so Beauty Counter has kind of taken that idea to the next level. And sort of what's trending now is, you know, not just organic and natural, but also, you know, what is actually safe? And, you know, can we test it and screen it to be sure that it's actually safe and healthy for our bodies? So our products are about 80% botanical, 20% are synthetic, but of those synthetic ingredients, everything is rigorously screened and meticulously tested to ensure that it's safe and healthy for our bodies. And so we actually ban 1,800 plus chemicals. We have what's called the Never List. Yeah, it's more than anybody else in the world.
That's crazy.
So about 20 years back, the EU banned about 1,400 chemicals. Canada was, I think, around 600 or 700.
Yeah. And the US is falling behind.
Oh, we had only 30. And that was 20 years ago. And so, you know, we're very seriously behind. So Beauty Counter really is like this trailblazer in terms of what it really means to be clean. And that word clean too has actually become more popular now, you know, as with Beauty Counter as the definitive leader in clean beauty, it's a very comprehensive term because from start to finish, so from sourcing to testing to packaging, that process is all highly transparent, safe, ethical, you name it. That's,
Wow.
they work tirelessly to make sure that that entire process is truthful and trustworthy.
That's amazing.
It really is.
I mean, and there's stuff that's in beauty products that make you break out just because they're chemicals, right? And so to me, I was like, when you first came to me with it, because this is the funny thing, okay? I always laugh that I'm like the diva hippie because I'm totally like,
I understand.
Oh no, I've got, everything has to be all natural, but I also am like, but I want to wear makeup. Like,
and you want it to work.
Yeah. And I want everything to be beautiful and I want to look pretty and, and I know that that's kind of counter to what everybody thinks hippies are like, but I'm not kidding. But, growing up, so I grew up in a household where, well, not just the household, like my entire family, my grandmother and all of my aunts were like total divas. And my grandma owned Merle Norman. And so everybody, I mean, they looked like, my grandma used to look, seriously, she looks like, I should say, she passed away, but she looks like Eva Gabor, like exactly, because she had this poster that was in Merle Norman in the store. And it was of, I can't remember if it was Eva or Zsa Zsa. I can't remember which one did the Merle Norman. But there was this poster of her and I used to look up and be like, Grandma, that's you. And she'd be like, no, baby, that's not me. That's Eva or Zsa Zsa. I can't remember. And I was like, no, Grandma, that's you. And I remember, and I was little, but I'm like, I still look at pictures of, Eva and Zsa Zsa. And I'm like, she looks exactly like my grandma.
Wow.
I mean, the hair, the nails, everything is done until the day she passed away. This woman was a total diva and my aunts were exactly the same. So I grew up like loving makeup and loving all these things. And it really wasn't about like, oh, I have to change what I look like and, and be like everybody else. It was more like, I just wanted to be like them, like my grandmother and, the women that I looked up to because they were amazing. I mean, so loving. And, and so I was always, going around getting those little packets of makeup and putting it on. So then when I like started to learn all of these things about what's in products and what's, in the environment even, I started to be like, well, I can't do that, and then, but then I was like, but I want it. So I had to kind of balance, like, do I want to look good or do I want to feel good, which sucks. Like, I don't want to do that. Yeah. So I liked this. When you first brought it to me, I was like, okay, we'll see, like, let me just see. And I think, that, like, I was just like, okay, we'll see how it does. And I am now like, I'm not joking. I don't know. I can't remember what show it was, but there was this show, I think it was Third Rock from the Sun. I used to love that show. Okay. And she goes, one of the girls in there, goes to the beauty counter. Not beauty counter, but in like Macy's or whatever, one of those stores, and tries on. They give her free samples, and then she becomes addicted to it. Like it's like crack for her, and she's like, oh my God, I need another tube of concealer. She's freaking out, and I'm like, oh my God, that's me. So I just ran out, which I need to order, of that, the night serum. And I'm seriously like that. I'm like, oh my God, I love that stuff. And I'm obsessed. So I still have to try a few things here and there, but it's really amazing. I love the way my skin feels. I really love the pore cleansing, not serum, pore cleanser. Yeah. Just the pore cleanser. Yep. I love all that stuff. And it makes my skin feel so good and so soft. And I'm like, okay, this is no joke. I don't have to now choose between, one or the other.
I absolutely love that. I love your story because I think that is so, it's unique and also really impactful for people just hearing about the brand. Because like it's one thing to say our brand is clean, but it's another to like
it is
understand that it actually is. It works. It is high performing and it will go toe to toe with any other brand that is as equally high performing.
And I'm starting to really figure that out.
I love it.
I'm kind of one of those people that's like, no, I'm not going to say anything about any of this, and now I'm like, I really, really am liking it. I'm sure, my grandma's like, Merle Norman, but
rolling over.
Sorry,
in the
Grandma.
grave.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, but if she had tried it, you never know.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I mean, this
too.
was back in the day when it's like nothing, they didn't know anything about what was in the environmental, anything.
Right.
So now we're starting to learn all of these things that, but the biggest thing for me, like I said, is the pineal gland and being able to have that connection with source energy, God.
Yes.
And, you know, the fact that we are being dumbed down by that and whatever is being put in our bodies is, you know, and of course it's causing cancers and, you know, doing all of these crazy things, ADD, ADHD, along with a ton of other things in the environment. But that was the biggest thing for me. And I cannot stress that enough, that, you know, along with meditation and eating well and, you know, all these things. But I really like the sunscreen too, by the way.
I know. And that's a big one too, especially in light of what's coming out in the news here lately about the sunscreens being recalled because of benzene. So yes, I love everything that you've said.
Even in the natural stuff.
Even in the natural stuff. Yeah,
Organic.
because benzene it's not something that you're going to find in an ingredient list. It's something, it's a contaminant that can get in there, but you only are going to find it if you test for it. And many of these companies aren't batch testing, or they're testing some, but not all. Beautycounter doesn't do that. We test every single batch without question, start to finish. Everything's getting tested.
I love that.
And if it doesn't meet our standards, we don't put it to market.
Right. And so I don't even know this, so you'll have to, you know, forgive me if. So is it just the beauty products, or do they also do other things? Do they do like cleaning products? And I haven't even like dove into this stuff yet.
So Beautycounter has quite a breadth of products. We do have skincare and makeup, like you touched on. We have bath and body. We used to have kids. We're sort of phasing that out, which I'm sad about, but I get it. We have a men's line. Excuse me. And and sunscreen, of course. I do we have a new deodorant, which I absolutely love. If you've ever tried a natural deodorant.
I have a natural or I use a natural deodorant now, but I'm like obsessed with it, and I'm like scared to. I have to try Beautycounter, but I'm like, no, I found one that works.
I respect that. I get that. And see, we are in support of that journey and that search. If you find something that is safe and effective and it works for you and you love it, more power to you.
But I mean, I'm not against it at this point. I'm kind of like, oh, well, I didn't really realize that this stuff works as well as, you know, as I thought. And so now I'm like, okay. So at some point I will. I'll take that dive into the deodorant.
Well, I have tried many brands and hated them so much. And so I think deodorant is kind of a hard product to love, but
it is.
I kind of do. Just because I know from experience, like there's so many brands out there and none of them really worked for me. So I'm really happy to have one. But to answer your question, that's sort of what, you know, the realm of what we're working on now. I wouldn't hesitate to say that we will expand our product base in the future. But the bigger picture is that we really we educate and we advocate for resources like the Environmental Working Group. So ewg.org, they have a ton of databases that are super helpful for like finding how your products rate. They have a rating scale of 1 to 10, or
for all the other products.
For everything.
As compared to Beautycounter.
So it's a database. You can go in and search for what you have, and it will rate your product on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being best, 10 being, well, EWG being best, 10 being worst. And it rates product safety based on its ingredients. So it breaks down all of the ingredients for you and tells you like what the concern is with each of those ingredients. So it's a really handy tool. It's kind of the best thing that we have right now. And not only that, but you can also search for safer products on that website.
That's great.
It's fantastic. And they also have a database for safer sunscreen. They have one for water, and they have the Dirty Dozen guide to pesticides in produce, which is really kind of neat.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then I love the healthy cleaning guide. The healthier cleaning guide tells you same thing. It rates your cleaning products, helps you find safer ones. And there's
definitely
more.
Gonna have to check that out.
It's fantastic.
Is there a link for this?
Yeah, you just go to ewg.org and then you can search all of those databases. I use the Skin Deep database. That's the one I was telling you about, rating your products, healthier cleaning guide, sunscreen guide, guide to pesticides in produce, the Dirty Dozen, you know, those top 12 produce items that you want to buy organic because of the pesticide content. So that's a great resource. And I have found, just being in the beauty counter community, there is a wealth of information out there from all these other consultants, everyone who has their own story about, people who joined because they had a baby born with a birth defect or they got breast cancer,
Right.
or, they had skin allergies, or infertility, all just on and on. All of these people have their own story and therefore their own set of resources that they've come across to heal their bodies and to educate others.
Right. And I know, so not so much with the beauty products, like for my, my face. But I know that, like I said, I haven't tried the deodorant from Beauty Counter. But I do know that when I switched over to a natural deodorant, there was a detox process.
Oh yeah, there is.
So I would like people to know about that, because that's rough. Yeah, because that's rough. And I know so many people that are like, oh my God, I tried to switch over for a natural, to a natural deodorant, and then I got like rashes and it was horrible and it didn't work. And I'm like, that to me is part of the detox process.
It totally is. And we actually have a couple of products to help you with that that process. So the charcoal bar and the charcoal mask. So two charcoal products.
Right. I love charcoal.
Yeah. Charcoal works because it's like a magnet, right?
Yes.
It sucks all the bad stuff to it. And so that's a great ingredient to help pull out those deep impurities and help you in that detox process. And you're right. It's brutal because, you can be stinkier during that time period. But if you use, I think we say if you use the charcoal bar in the shower, like I use it to wash, in the shower, and then do the mask, I don't know, once or twice a week or so, it will really speed that process along. That's all that really junk
cool.
out.
I wish I would have had that when I switched over.
Yeah.
Because I was like, like I said, I know so many people that are like, oh my God, that stuff is horrible. I can't believe you would ever tell me to try this product. And I'm like, well, it could have been this detox process. And that usually lasts like about 4 to 6 weeks-ish.
It can last that long.
Okay.
Sometimes it's shorter.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on how much you got to detox out of your system.
It totally does. It totally does. I know a story about a woman who had to actually go to the doctor because when she would, she wore normal antiperspirant deodorant and she would get these clogged ducts and just be swollen and angry. And
I was starting to get those because I used to use Dove deodorant, and that was the only one that I swore up and down. And I was like, no, I'm not. And when I started using, it's Native that I really like. So when I started using Native, I was getting, they were like bumps in my armpits, and you couldn't see them, but I could feel them, and they were so tender underneath my armpits. And that is like, I was looking it up, you do the Dr. Google thing, and I was like, oh my God, I have breast cancer, and it was like this whole, but it really is this process of getting rid of the toxins, and your body kind of, it freaks out, but in a good way. It's like, it tries to push it out so fast.
Yes. Yeah.
Through your pores that things get a little rough for a while. So.
They do. Well, and this is, oh my gosh, I could say so many things about this. Yes. Your skin, I love the science behind skincare. Yes. And that's another way that I nerd out when I'm, doing my beauty counter thing.
I love it.
Good.
I nerd out on spirituality. I love that you nerd out on this because this is part of it.
Okay. So a lot of us are really, sensitive to the idea of oil and oil production.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so oily and I'm sweaty and all this other stuff. Too. Yes. And the thing is that oil is actually our skin's first defense.
Right.
And your body is responding to an assault when it produces oil. And that's true in your armpits too.
Yeah.
So if you're slathering on the antiperspirant, clogging up your pores, not allowing your body to do its natural detoxification process, we get rid of heavy metals through sweating and BPAs through sweating. It's something that really needs to happen. When we don't allow it to happen, those pores are going to clog up and just wreak havoc on our systems. And the same with skincare. People are like, I'm oily, really, really oily. I need, counter control line. And I'm like, let's dig a little deeper.
Yes.
How does your skin feel right after you cleanse? Does it feel dry and tight, or do you feel soft, supple, smooth, like you don't need anything else? And just, really digging through that process. Do you have to reapply your makeup halfway through the day, or is it falling off your face?
That sounds like me as a teenager. Yeah. And I was scrubbing my face and doing all these things. And then I realized oh, I'm taking all of it off.
Well, I feel like in our culture, for whatever reason, we are conditioned to believe that oil is bad and that oil produces acne. And in an overabundance, it does, but oil is our friend. And when we scrub and scrape away the lipids and the essentials that are in our skin, our body is going to produce more oil.
Yes.
So you could actually become, more oily in the process
exactly
of
what
trying to get rid
happened
of
to
your
me
oil. Yeah.
As a child, like as a teenage
I did
kid.
it too.
And then now I use actual oil to put on my face.
Yep.
And it's like essential oils, to put on my face, and then I put on my makeup and
love it.
And now I'm like, oh, my skin is so much happier.
I know
it's crazy.
It makes total sense. And we have 3 wonderful facial oils as well. That whole idea of oil breaks down oil. I have a number of clients who I've given the number 3 balancing oil to, and they've been like, I don't want more oil. My face is oily. And I'm like, trust me, your body will break down the excess and balance it out. And now their skin is clear. And it's so amazing.
That's amazing.
It's
I
so
love that
cool.
because I seriously, there's so many things. It's almost like when you have a baby, and then like there's all these cool things that you get, and everybody's like, oh, I wish that I had that when my kids were born. And now that like my kids are older, I'm looking out at everybody else that's having babies, and I'm like, where was that? I mean, it's simple things like when I had my 21-year-old, now 21-year-old. I mean, I was like, how easy or nice it would have been for me to like pull up somewhere and have somebody bring my groceries to me.
Oh yeah.
Like it's these little things that I'm like, seriously?
Absolutely.
But it goes for all these things. I look back and I'm like, why didn't somebody tell me that I should not use, what is it called? Benzoyl peroxide. Like I straight up had like benzoyl peroxide where it was tinted, and I would just put it all over my face every day. I mean, for years, because I was like, I'm just like acne prone, and and like I'd get a pimple and freak out. And now I'm like, oh my goodness, I need to wash my face and put oil on it.
Yeah. And that's all you need to do. Take some deep breaths. You'll be fine.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm glad that, now at least now I have teenagers that are like, and their skin is so beautiful. And I'm just like, okay,
that's
good.
Wonderful.
Because I'm like, here, use this oil. So I'm going to have to try a lot of these beauty counter oils, because I'm just like new into this. So but I'm really loving it.
It's exciting. And the other thing about skincare is that it takes a long time, and it's a really personal thing too. Like a lot of times people are defensive about switching to a new brand or trying, different skincare products, because it's intensely personal. And I totally get that.
Yes.
But the other thing that I can really appreciate is that we work so hard to like understand where you're coming from, and to find something. Like I will, if it takes me a year, I will find you exactly what your skin needs. That's because I believe that it exists. Like I believe that it can be done, because I've done that for myself, and it's so nice when you find that right balance.
It's like amazing. And then you're like, oh man, where was this all of my life?
Well, to finally be able to enjoy your skin, to just look in the mirror and not have to worry about.
I used to be so jealous. Like of other women, and they'd walk around with like no makeup on. And I was oh my God, I can't, there's no way I could, because like I said, I started wearing makeup at a very early age because I had makeup all around me, So I was like, oh, I need all this. And that was when my skin was like beautiful and healthy.
And perfect. Yeah.
And then it changed into, and it was like, I swear I sped up that process of like the teenage, you know what I mean? Like acne prone, and by the stuff that I was caking on my face.
Yes.
And, now it's like, I want to be all natural.
I
want to be able to wake up and be like, I woke up like this.
And with Beauty Counter, you can.
Yay!
Well, and you touched on something, you just didn't know. And that's the thing. I didn't know either. The mass majority of us didn't know. And we don't know until something like this comes along, or you have something happen in your life that propels you on that journey of discovering, okay, how do I heal my body?
Yes.
And addressing your skin is part of that journey. And so, I mean, this is not being talked about in the medical community. We have a number of physicians on our team. And this is not, it is nurses and doctors and dietitians and nutritionists, and it's not being talked about in the medical community. In fact, a lot of times doctors are prescribing, topical ointments and creams and things that have a lot of the ingredients that are on the never list. So, because they don't know. Yeah. They just don't know about it.
Is this like doctors or like dermatologists or both? Man,
everyone.
That is crazy. I can't even imagine going to a dermatologist and having them
Oh,
prescribe
yeah.
something that is on the never list.
Uh-huh.
That could, that's like, I mean, the same thing, like in the medical community, it's like, here's a pill and it's going to cause 5 other things. And then you're going to have to go in for all those things and get 5 more different things. And, you know, and it just keeps going and going.
Yeah. It's quite the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But I mean, if we look at, okay, the facts are that there has not been a federal law to regulate the $62 billion cosmetic industry in any meaningful way since 1938.
Yes.
And we have like a page and a half of legislation. And now Beauty Counter it's so exciting because the advocacy piece is what really sets us apart.
Yes.
We were involved in like 9 different things in 2019, I think 2020, not so much in 2020 because that was kind of a crazy year.
Yeah.
But, and pushing for this cosmetic reform. I mean, that's what really sets us apart and is totally unique to any other brand. And so, back in the day, I think it was Teddy Roosevelt who passed the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act or something, because kids were dying because of the ingredients that were, And
I mean, and they're still dying. They just are not saying anything about it. And they're saying it's not caused by what we put in our bodies.
Exactly. You know? Well, and you said it, the 4 A's, autism and ADHD, and, you know, these are things that we know have links. And so, you know, when we think about that there hasn't been any real legislation to protect us. I mean, the FDA has no power to protect us. They are not screening. And
I think the FDA is a joke completely. Sorry, but that's just me.
Well, and here's what it comes down to. Since 1938, there have been 85,000 chemicals introduced into the market since World War II, right? Of those, probably less than 10% are actually being tested and screened. The FDA is not screening products that we put on our bodies every single day. Even if they were, they have no power to recall those things. It's not like a salmonella outbreak where you find some salmonella and they yank it from the shelves. That is not happening with personal care products. So,
and you know, in my from all the research and digging that I do, it's not definitely not in, you know, the beauty industry that I usually do. I mean, it pops up like now, but it's like they want to keep people sick, because that is a billion-dollar industry in itself. And then you go into more and more stuff. So that's why it's a joke to me.
It blows my mind. How can we be okay with putting these products that are linked to cancer, linked to endocrine disruption? Like, look at what's going on in our population. We are not getting well. We're getting sicker. How can we be okay with that? And it's funny because when Beauty Counter first started and they were really taking a stand for like, no, we're not going to put that in our products. And the lab people kind of laughed at them. They're like, well, it's totally fine. Like, this is something that's regularly used. And they're like, well, we're different.
That's awesome. That makes me feel so much better about Beauty Counter. I mean, I am, you know, as the more that I dig into it, the more that I'm like, oh, I didn't know that this was even a problem, you know, because I'm focused on, you know, everybody's got their passion. And we need everyone to have their passion and to dig into that. And this, you know, and it all kind of rolls into one, you know, one place. So
that is so true. Yeah. And I agree. And I fall in love with Beauty Counter all over again every single day. I just had a chat with a friend. She's on my team. And I was like, who gets to do this? Like, I get to talk to you. You just gave me 15 ideas and you are doing such cool things. And she's just lit up from the inside. And I'm like, these are my people. I mean, this community of individuals that I get to be a part of and just spend time with and learn from, and not to mention the personal growth. I mean, this is all aside from like the facts and the you know, skincare and makeup is one thing, but the other piece of this puzzle for me is just everything that it has led to in terms of my own personal growth journey and just getting more mature and wiser and
I agree,
happier.
And I think that is definitely happening as far as the such a weird like enlightenment, I suppose, or the people that are waking up, however you want to say that. It doesn't really make a difference, but it's really learning what we've been lied to about,
Yes.
and how we can finally have our voices heard and be like, I don't appreciate this. I don't want this in there. I don't want this. I'm not going to, go for what everybody else has done because, they're like, oh, well, this has worked for years. Just like you said, well, this has worked for years. It's fine.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Right.
It's causing all of this sickness and, turmoil and then, and death, sadly,
Exactly.
And it's like a buildup of this over years and years and years.
Yeah.
So I think it's spiritual.
Yes.
In that sense.
I agree. And I feel like, a lot of times, and I felt this way too, when you initially learn all of this information, you can kind of feel overwhelmed. Like, oh my gosh, these ingredients are in everything. And I'm a testament to that. I mean, I went through every product in my home, dish detergent, laundry stuff, deodorant, toothpaste, all of it. Right. And I couldn't find a single product in my entire house that didn't have at least one ingredient on that never list. Wow. I panicked. I was like, what am I going to do?
Then you freak out and don't want to use anything. And
like,
oh, wait a minute.
And I'm like, it's going to cost a fortune to replace. But if you just intentionally, one thing at a time, when it comes time to replace something, you make a better choice and you inform yourself. That's what we're all about. Arming people with the power to make a better decision for the health and well-being of their families.
Right. And with all of the things that I'm doing and then all of this beauty counter stuff, I was like, no, I can't, like there's so much to it. I can't, I've got all of these things, but you're right. It's like, well, okay, fine. I'll try this and this and this because I'm out of those things. And so, and now I'm like, oh, I really like that. And so now I'm going to continue using those because I was going to buy them anyway, and now I'm like, oh, well, I didn't know that you had this, so let me try this. And so it's not something that you have to do all at once. I mean, we've been using crap for years. So we might as well start switching things out, until it's all done.
Exactly. And, as far as like, being a consultant, it's like sometimes you think about, well, I can't put one more thing on my plate. And you and I have talked about this, and I 100% understand that. But here's the thing, you're already doing it. Yes. Like you're already sharing, like, look what we're doing right here. Right. This is not, adding to your plate. This is just another piece of the pie.
Absolutely.
Another level of service that you get to offer. And I just absolutely love that part of it. Like you said, we all have something that we're passionate about that we need to share on. And this is just complementary to everything that we're already doing. And I love that it fits like that.
Perfect. I feel the same way. This excites me now.
Good. I'm glad. And that's what it's all about. I mean, I have found like this fire, and it all stems from Beauty Counter, and it lights me up. It's like, this is so important and is so meaningful to me and fulfills me in so many ways that I never even thought possible. Perfect. I never thought I would be sitting on this couch talking to you like
on a cannabis. Poor Jane. She's like, oh, right, well, I don't really smoke cannabis. I'm like, that's totally fine. I don't necessarily either. I mean, I do. Like, we don't have to do that. That's not a big deal. What my goal is to get out and put the power back into other people's hands with the way that we heal ourselves from the inside out. And that has to do with spirituality. It has to do with what we put on our bodies, what we, our environment, our children, because them growing up, they're going to make better choices.
Absolutely.
Well, let's hope, that's the end goal, right?
We're setting them up for that. That's all we can do.
See what I can do. And so, it's all this kind of, if you think of it that way, it's like, it's not an uphill battle anymore.
No, I totally agree. Yeah. And I feel like, the shift that you were talking about totally happened for me, even just in the last year. Like I was when I started to get really enthusiastic about this business, I've always been a tomboy and had a very like masculine, sort of energy and to-do lists and details and push. And then I burned out after holiday. And so this journey has really brought me through to embracing more of my feminine side. And I think some of us women are afraid to do that because we've lived
Sure.
in this corporate America, very
Yes.
masculine driven, and I have nothing against
No, not at
the
all. But there
men.
needs to be a balance.
But there
for
needs
sure.
to be a balance. You're absolutely right. And embracing both,
Yes.
because we're composed of both, just like
Yes.
we have a right and a left
Absolutely.
hemisphere that do different and intricate and
Yeah.
incredible things. To embrace more this creativity and this
Yes.
flow.
Yes.
And
I love using that word. I use it
I
all
do
the time.
too.
The
That's my
flow,
word of the year.
flow of things. Yes, mine too. Like, man, the flow of everything. Because you just, instead of fighting, like you were saying,
pushing.
it's like, and pushing and just fighting and let's go.
Yes.
It's more like, oh, just, let whatever you're led to do, that's source energy, right?
Yeah,
It's just
let
like,
it
okay,
come.
this is what you're supposed to be doing. And
Yes.
that's like part of manifestation. It's, it just gets put in front of you. And, of course you have to do something about it.
Right.
But, and not just be like, oh, that's lovely. And then turn around.
Right.
But, once it's there, then you make the choice to be like, oh, I'm going to pay attention to that. Wow. I didn't know that. Let's make this change. And then you move forward.
Exactly. And I am so in school for that this whole year. I mean, to think about
my
who
whole
I
life,
was.
Girl, my whole life.
Right. Well, I mean, even just who I was a year ago.
Absolutely.
To now, I'm like so grateful for that change and that growth and that flow.
Yeah.
I keep doing this because that's how I feel.
I
it's
agree.
like, it's easy. Like, let it be easy. Let me not be striving for what I'm trying to obtain. Let me let it come to me. I mean, yes, I will do my due diligence, but I will release my attachment to the outcome.
Yeah.
And let it go.
Yeah.
I think we got off on a tangent, but
totally
anyway,
did. But who cares?
I feel like it fits.
It does. It totally fits. It totally fits.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, Beauty Counter lights me up. There's so many different things that I've learned and just accumulated that I'm super grateful for. And you are one of those things.
Oh, thank you. I'm grateful for you as well. I appreciate you so much. And all of the things that you've done for my family, because you also help me on the journey with my child who's got ADHD.
Yeah.
And so, and I love the fact that you help me to make better choices. And by just being like, hey, there's this, like, hey, you can,
there's another way.
Yeah, there's another way to do this. And I was like, oh, you've made my life flow. So I appreciate it.
Oh, it's very much my pleasure.
Well, thank you so very much for being on my show. Even though you're
welcome.
not a stoner, I love you.
I love you too. Thank you so much for having me, even though I'm not a stoner.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think anybody has to be a stoner. I'm totally joking with that. But, it is, I think I wanted to do this show more because it was part of the flow of being like, we've totally normalized alcohol and putting alcohol into our system.
Yeah.
Like, I could have a show where we, sit here and have a beer together or sit here and have a glass of wine, which I also don't think there's anything wrong with that in moderation.
Right.
But to me, it's like there's this healing property of cannabis. And, I've seen that work in many ways, especially with like my husband with PTSD and what he's putting in his body. Now, he can't have anything to do with cannabis, but his military brothers, I've watched them, and then my own daughter, how she's, she had some PTSD and, things that happened. And I watched her go from, all this chemical stuff that they were, the doctors were putting in her body to complete, all natural, and then just do the cannabis, and it's a total difference. So really that's more of the reason why I started the show. And that explains the way that I am a one-hitter quitter.
I love
it. But,
okay.
this is part, of me trying to open up the world to be like, it's not just about, being Snoop Dogg. This is about like making, cognizant choices on what we are putting in our bodies and what that means, to us as individuals.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like this is the perfect fit for, to complement what you are doing with that. And yes, this brand is so transparent about its ingredients and what it's offering, that I think that is exactly what you're
it
searching for.
You're right. Well, thank you so very much. I would love to have
You're
you back on and talk about more products at some point in time.
Absolutely.
Maybe as I learn more about them, because I'm
Why
like,
not?
I don't even know, I don't even know half of the stuff that's out there, which is great. However, there are links down below in the description box. And then maybe I'll put some links to the websites that you were talking about with the Dirty
EWG.
Dozen and EWG.
Absolutely.
So I will also put those down there. So thank you so much for being on
You're
the show.
very welcome.
And thank you guys for listening and for tuning in this week to Mystic Conversations with Awakening Stoners. I appreciate you. I love you. And what was my outro? See, I can't even
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Yeah. No, I will see you on the next video. Welcome to your Ascension Creator. See, I can't even do this when I'm sober. This is terrible. Anyway, welcome to your Ascension.